This is lesson 1.6. Represent, I'll try to lower that just a bit. Represent, and it's part 1. This is a 2-part lesson. Functions as rules and tables. A lot of the key of this chapter is understanding what a function is. I'm just going to put part 1 in here so we know it's part 1. Okay, so first let's define a function, and to do it we're going to just use this as an example to teach us what it means. The total cost of gas is a function of the number of gallons pumped. Okay, the total cost of gas is a function of the number of gallons pumped. Okay, so is a function. We just need to understand what does that mean, that word, is a function. Okay, is a function has some synonyms. So what would you say if you're pumping gas and you're putting gas in your car? The total cost of gas is because of, right? It's because of the number of gallons pumped, right? The cost is higher if the number of gallons is higher. It depends on the number of gallons pumped, right? The total cost is going to depend on how much gas I put in my car, right? These are all synonyms. Is the result of, right? The total cost of gas is the result of the number of gallons pumped, right? That makes all the sense. So to understand the word function, it's a very simple word we use in English every single day to describe things we do. It's the result of. So you have something causing something else, right? You have an input causing an output, right? The number of gallons is put in the car, causing an output, how much you have to pay. Okay, that is essentially the meaning of the word function. Now we have to look at some more vocabulary. An input, and I'm changing markers just so that it's a little bit clearer and I'm not repeating myself. An input leads to an output. I'm reversing things because I'm more comfortable going left to right, and I want to continue this definition. An input with a function in the middle causes an output. Some of you who took Saxon had this whole function box. Something is done to the input to create an output. In this case, the input is gallons of gas pumped. And what happens to it? Well, it's multiplied by, say, $1.99 a gallon, right? And it causes an output. So an input is also known as the domain. That's another word for an input. So you need to learn this word. We're going to use it a lot. The output is also known as the range. Okay, the output depends on the input. The range depends on the domain. And we also use the variables. An input is also called X and the output called Y. So Y depends on X. The range depends on the domain. The output depends on the input. These are really important things. So let's look at what that means in terms of this particular problem with pumping gas. So we're going to draw a table. Exercise 1 is really the continuation of that same problem. We're pumping gas, okay? And the book is great in that they've drawn a table for us of what that looks like. Now you could have anything in that table, okay? And I'm going to have 1, 2. So I have input, and that's the gallons of gas pumped in the car, and output. It's how much I'm paying as a result of the number of gallons I'm putting in the car. I'm told that gas is $1.99 per gallon, right? That's on the pump out front. So let's say my input, right, which I said it could be called X, is 10 gallons. Well, 10 gallons at $1.99 per every gallon is going to be $19.99. What if I put not 10 gallons, but 12 gallons? Well, I'll find if I multiply 12 times $1.99, that I'm going to end up having to pay $23.99. If I put 13 gallons in, I'm going to have to pay $25.99. And if I put $17 in, I'm going to pay $33.98. So the domain, what is my domain? Remember I said domain equals input. So what is my domain? Well, in this case, I could have put any number. I could have put a 1 gallon in the domain, right? Maybe, or 2 gallons or 3 or whatever. But my domain here, which is my input, is 10, 12, 13, 17. My range, which is also known as the output, is the values that correspond to my inputs. It's $19.99, $23.99, $25.99, $33.98. Okay, so if I give you a graph like this and I say, what is the domain? You'll need to give me my inputs, or my X values, as I defined before. And my outputs, which is also known as my range, is these bottom numbers: $19.99, $23.99, $25.99, $33.98. Okay. So I'm going to pause and ask you to do guided practice number 1. And this is on page 35. And I want you to do number 1, which asks you to identify the domain and range of the function. Pause the video, do that, and then pick up in a minute because I'm going to do mapping diagrams next. Okay, now let's look at a mapping diagram. And for that mapping diagram, I'm going to pick up, honestly, and just tell you a mapping diagram, essentially, and I will go on to the next page, puts the inputs on one side and the outputs on the other. And it connects them to each other. Okay, and remember, the input is the domain, the output is the range. The input is the X, the output is the Y. Okay, so let's look at, this is called a mapping diagram.